Welcome back to part 3 of the 07K swap in my MK2 GTI. Today, I plan on attacking the harness side of the car by running it through the firewall somehow. When I get to a solution, I'll certainly show you in this video where I'm at. Engine trans, clutch, shift cables, clutch cable, everything is installed. Everything's moving as it should, everything's firing up as it should. I need to permanently mount the fuel lines and fuel filter. I need to install the harness in a location where it doesn't look awful. And I need to address the entire cooling system. Other than that, it's done. It's like funny that getting to this point of a running motor with spinning axles and everything is about 40% of the job. The rest of it is all time consuming, and it's the part that I was not prepared for mentally. So here's me trying to overcome it. End of this video, we're driving this car somehow. All right, so stick around. Okay, less of my face, more of the car. So here goes the engine harness basically installed. I have it running all along this frame rail, which I'm totally fine with. And I just have this small piece, which once I have radiator fans and a front end on, you really won't see quite as much of this. And hopefully this won't look as crowded because I am going to run my coolant reservoir in the factory location. Despite people running the 07K one over there, I'm gonna use the factory one and make that work because I like the way it looks over there. That said, it'll also cover up this grommet that I put in. I don't know if that's coming through or not, but that is, there's that grommet. You can see I kind of cut it open a bit to stuff all those wires through the firewall, but that is better than the alternative, which is living up here in the rain tray. Now let's talk about the messy part that I need to clean up, which is not actually that bad. Here it is, the pile of wires, but it's actually just coming through the firewall. I have 3 bundles of wires. You have the 2 connectors for the ECU, and then I have a third one, which is just the O2 sensor lead, which fits in the car. I plan on putting the ECU tucked up right in there with all the other mess of wires, but there's this nice little shelf on top of the fuse box that I can live on. And my trigger wires, actually I'm using the pin from that relay that's not in there. So my trigger wire will be right there for the ECU, and then I'll be able to peel this carpet back and run my 12 volt all the way back to the fuel pump. So I'm actually pretty happy with where this is gonna live. I was thinking about trying to run everything over the steering column and over to that, over to the passenger side, but I think this is a fine spot because if I have to access it quickly or need to get to it, you can always drop the CE2 fuse boxes with just these tabs on the side. So I'll be able to get to it relatively easy. But that's where that ECU is going to live. And this mess of wires is actually not that bad because it's literally, you have a plug for the pedal and some other stuff that I can kind of tuck away and tape up. And then also my OBD2 port, which is going to be awesome for diag now. It'd be cool to be able to plug in some diagnostic equipment to a car from 1991. Okay, so I'm going to try and make some progress tonight. I don't think I'm going to get coolant in the system or get anything bled, but I'm hoping to get the hoses hooked up. I have a vacuum bleeder, so I'm going to pull vacuum on the system. If the cooling system can hold vacuum, then I know everything is at least hooked up properly, and I'll call that good, so then I can add coolant after the fact. That said, I want to give everyone a brief run through of how the coolant system works on an 07K. This wasn't information that was particularly hard to find, but it wasn't super obvious when looking at the diagrams. Some of the diagrams will have a pipe in a vertical position, but in the car it's actually horizontal, so it's kind of hard to navigate some of the diagrams I was looking at. So I'm going to flip the camera, explain to you everything from the thermostat housing out and how I'm going to run it and how it's designed to be run. So let's take a peek. Flip. All right. So forgive the lighting, I only have my headlamp. So expansion tank, we'll get to that kind of last. Here's the big stuff. So this is your thermostat housing here. The thermostat housing has One inlet, it connects directly to the back of the water pump through the thermostat housing, and then there are 4 ports coming off the thermostat housing, which is a little ridiculous. We'll start at the top and then I'll explain where all of them go. This top one is a very expensive pipe from Volkswagen. At minimum, you're paying $125 if you lose that. At max, you're paying $200 if you need it in an emergency. It literally keys in here with an O-ring, comes off, and it feeds to the bottom of the expansion tank. That's one of the ports. The second port is down here, and this is just a hose that connects it to the external oil cooler, so coolant flows through this to keep the oil at operating temp. Then there is this pipe here. This is a coolant, kind of a bypass pipe, and this runs along the side of the head, underneath the coolant flange, and then a hose connects to it, leading it to your heater core. Obviously, if you're not running a heater core, you would cap that lower hose. And then lastly, this is just the thermostat housing. You have a lower coolant hose. That lower coolant hose runs from this thermostat housing to the outlet for the bottom of the radiator, and that's where that lives. I'm going to get a little creative on how I get it there and what hoses I'm using based on some stuff I already own and some 90s and stuff that I purchased from Amazon. Now, let's get to the upper radiator hose and the coolant flange. This is the upper rad hose. This is coming directly off the coolant flange on the side of the head that has the temperature sensor in it. This goes to the top of the rad. You will need some sort of T-fitting like this for the overflow hose. And this hose we will follow in a second. It goes here, and it's on a secondary pipe along the back of the head, straight into the top of the expansion tank that's not bolted into anything. On that same hose, on that same metal pipe, there is a hose here. And this leads to the other side of the heater core. You also need a T for this, so you can T in. This is so when it expands, all the water expands, it can fill up this expansion tank, no problem. And then that other heater core hose here just runs to the other side of that coolant flange. I know most of you are probably aware of how the coolant system works. But in this particular case, there are too many inlets, too many outlets, and I couldn't keep track just by trying to line stuff up. So I found a diagram, I mustered my way through it best I could, and then that's what I came up with, and then looked at some photos of some other swaps, and that's kind of how I determined where things live. And now this is on the internet, so if anyone needs to look it up, I will hopefully, the AI machine will say coolant section of the video. But yeah, that's it. I'm going to try to get this plumbed in with some of my random bits and bobs here. And if I do, we'll be back, and then hopefully we'll be pouring some coolant in this thing in the next day or so. I think I'm going to drive this damn thing today. Engine coolant temp, ECT, you see it?
Yeah, 8th. Yep.
Oh wow.
27.
It got up to like 100 really quick. And now it seems
to be beautiful Port Richmond.
It's a really nice town.
Wow, look at all these trash. Look at all these holes in the ground.
There's also am exhausted. But this thing fucking shreds. Truly shreds. It is a fucking riot to drive. The traction is non-existent. It's a little bit wet outside. I have a ton of stuff to finish up. I'm gonna flip the camera, show you where I'm at with it, and then next video, probably a nice review, because I'll get to truly beat the shit out of this car, which I cannot wait to do. All right, so the exhaust right now is just a little custom downpipe I made with some flex pipe, and then I have a 2.5-inch exhaust straight out to the axle beam with a little 90-degree turn down. That's gonna be the temporary exhaust until I buy a nice catback and then get a custom downpipe made to connect the two exhausts. So the other thing, I was gonna buy some stuff for this, but I ended up just making it. This is a bracket I made to hold this expansion tank. Turned out pretty good. I need to take it off, paint it and stuff, and then clean up the edges with a grinder, but I'm totally happy with how that turned out and leaving it on that side. The part that is a little overwhelming, the rad, I don't have the upper rad support in or the fans. I don't have these hoses trimmed to size, and I don't have any of the wires for the front end hooked up, as well as getting rid of these horrible battery terminals. This was just the easiest way for me to kind of sort through the wiring, just have ports to put it in, but this is not gonna be how it lives. I'm gonna clean up all the power cables with ring connectors and a little simpler system. This is like a guy with a fucking subwoofer type shit. So I'll get rid of that eventually, but as of right now, let me actually disconnect the battery. This is where I'm at. I don't have too much left, to be honest with you. I have to hook up the fans, bleed the cooling system and put actual coolant in there, get the rad situated where it's actually secured top and bottom, and then trim these hoses to size, and that's pretty much it. And then I think I can probably drive this thing a little further. But thanks for watching. I will give a proper review of this car once I get it on the road officially, and I think that will be in the next couple weeks because I'm pretty motivated. I pulled this in the garage around February 1st, and it was super nice. I'm pulling it out of the garage for a proper test drive on March 4th. So I put in a ton of hours, I spent a ton of money, but I have learned a lot about this car myself, and I'm super stoked.